Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering Manchester City and Arsenal draw. We'll discuss Barcelona's win over Villarreal and Ter Stegen's injury. We'll talk about Rodri likely missing the rest of the season with the ACL injury. We'll discuss AC Milan's derby win over Inter, and then make sure you stick around for the end of the show. I'll be giving you my reaction to some of the top headlines going on in the soccer world. If you have a question during the show, we want to hear it. Your input is a big part of what makes this show successful, and we thrive on your energy and insights. Whether it's a quick comment, a thoughtful question, or an opinion you just have to share, don't hesitate to drop it in the chat. Now, if you want to make absolutely sure your message gets on the air and featured on the show, there's an easy way to do that. Use the super chat feature. Just click the $ at the bottom of the chat box. Send in your super chat. This guarantees that your message gets on the air, and it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We really rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we appreciate every bit of it. So go ahead, let us know what you're thinking. Hit that super chat button, and let's keep the show as interactive and exciting as possible. And if you prefer, you can also go to the GSMCpodcast.net to tip, donate, and leave a comment or question there. We couldn't do what we do without your amazing support, and we're so thankful to have you as part of our community. We start off with the Manchester City and Arsenal draw. Obviously, there's a lot to discuss here. Some controversial decisions. Some red card. Red cards. All that. A lot of tensions. Heavy. Rivalry brewing, a little element of nastiness to the game that we don't really see much in this day and age. There was we have that to discuss. We have last minute goals, wonder goals like we saw from Calafiori. It was just amazing. Everything happened. Everything was going on in this game, and it really had everything going. I believe on YouTube in America it was like the 9th trending thing. And keep in mind, this is on a Sunday where there's NFL, where the Dallas Cowboys are taking on the Ravens, with the Chiefs taking on the Falcons, the Niners playing the Rams. And this was one of the, top watched events, most trending events on YouTube ahead of all those games. So there was a lot going on. And going back to Arsenal, where to start off? Look, this is a very good game. A lot of things going on. 4-0. We thought, I thought entering this game, this was going to potentially be another one of those snooze vests. Last year, City and Arsenal took on each other. Both games, even the one with the late goal at the Emirates early on that Arsenal were able to win, both games were pretty boring and a little dead to watch and a little hard to watch. This game was anything but. You had high-flying football, high-energy football in that first half specifically. Erling Haaland, we know what he's done so far, 9 goals in 4 games. He makes that 10 in 5 games with that opening goal, the fastest player to get to 10 goals in a season. The goal came in the 9th minute. Brilliant. A lot of people doesn't talk about this. They talk about Haaland scoring the goal, and rightfully so. It was a really, really good goal, and the way he held his run to make sure he wasn't offsides, because the ball being played in wasn't exactly played in, as quick as it should have been. But nobody talks about Savio in that position. He receives the ball, and he just has a quick sort of half Cruyff turn that allows him to get away from a Calafiori that's charging at him, that's trying to make a play on the ball. And then it allowed him to get into space where he was driving into space. And then, yes, you could say he played it just a little bit too late, but Erling Haaland, being able to hold his run, not taking the bait, not going off sides, holding his run, making sure he was level with Gabriel, and then the ball gets played into him, which is straight down the straight splitting the center halves, which I have some people that were critical, that were very critical on the positionings of the center half. I do have to say Gabriel and Saliba were put in a vulnerable position in with that Calafiore. He decided to commit on Savio. Once Savio got past him, Gabriel, he sees that Calafiore is committing there. He's gonna have to, take a few steps to his left hand side to protect the space that Calafiore leaves, committing for that ball. That allows the center halves to get split with Saliba and Gabriel. I do think once Savio continues to drive the ball forward, I do think there's a little bit of time for Gabriel and Saliba, both of them, to tighten up the space in between them, to close off the lane for Erling Haaland to run through. They don't react to that. They're trying to play Haaland off almost, and then the ball gets played in, and then again, really good finish outside of the boot. Very similar finish to Nicholas Jackson he had earlier or a day before. That really good finish he had against West Brom. Similar, outside of the boot. Really quality finish there from a quality player, and there was a lot of talk of him not showing up in big games, so that was a big moment, and you can see from the celebration, that was a big moment for him getting that goal. And then I thought Arsenal's response was pretty good in terms of the fact that I didn't think that the pressure getting away, going down early, playing away didn't really get to them. I thought they started playing some really good ball. I thought they were, they didn't create that many clear-cut opportunities following the goal, but they played themselves back into the game. They weren't dominated after that opening goal. I do have to say, I thought the response for Arsenal in general was good. I thought they were able to have control of the ball in certain areas. I thought they held on to the initial line of pressure that came from City, and then when the opportunity came that they could take advantage, they took advantage, and it came around the 21st minute with a quick free kick being played, which there's controversy regarding that in terms of whether or not it would have been allowed. But before we get to that, so quick free kick gets played into the pass of Martinelli. Kyle Walker talking to the referee, a little bit late getting back. He does get back into a positioning that he's in between Martinelli and the goal. He has himself a goal side, and he's in a good position there. He's in a position to stop Martinelli from, getting into the box, and he's also, in a good position to prevent Martinelli from putting in a cross. In that position, Kyle Walker defending Martinelli, Savio decides to, play a little bit closer to Kyle Walker just to allow, if Martinelli does cut inside, to double him up potentially. And that leaves Calafiore coming in late, and one of the top goals that I've seen so far this season. I mean, it was absolutely true. That strike was true. Sensational strike. The curling effort to it. The way as soon as it left his feet, you just thought, oh, this is gonna belt into the back of the net. It just looked like pure class, pure quality. It was a sensational goal. And by the way, that's his first start for Arsenal. For that moment to come in this game, in this, at the Etihad, what a moment, what a goal. And honestly, that and the set piece, it was going to take moments like that for Arsenal to create, because this is an Arsenal team that hasn't created much in fact, since Odegaard has been out, they haven't scored any goal from open play in terms of, this is a goal from open play, obviously, but when I mean a goal from open play, as in, it was either going to be like a wonderful moment of magic like this, or it's gonna come off a set piece like they did against Tottenham, like they did on the second goal here today, and then this is gonna be like a moment of magic, a moment of quality. That's the way Arsenal were going to score in this game, and it was amazing moment, amazing goal, uh, for Calafiori. Regarding the controversy of that decision, look, whether or not the referee should have allowed Kyle Walker to, go back, is there's a room for interpretation there. Um, I personally think he should. If he's calling him to have a conversation, then he should give him more than enough time to, get back into his proper positioning. But what's not arguable at all is the free kick was not played at the right area. It was played like 10 yards in front of where the foul actually occurred. So there, that's inarguable there. Okay, so then they get that goal. Then the second goal comes from Arsenal. Set piece. They take advantage of set piece. And honestly, they could have taken advantage minutes earlier because Martinelli had a very similar opportunity from that similar range. Couldn't really get, couldn't, redirect it back into the goal. Couldn't get underneath the ball there. But, that was a warning sign to City. And I tell you what, literally like 6-7 minutes later, it's the exact same play. And it's an interesting, this is a set piece play that they've practiced before. All the players, as Saka is starting to run up to take the corner, a lot of the players, go to crowd the goalkeeper. And it's really made this, set piece opportunity is really made for Gabriel. He's the primary target here because he's the only one that is making that run into the 6 yard mark to attack the ball. Everyone else is, basically being used to block off Ederson, and he's able to do a nice little hesitation on Kyle Walker right outside the penalty mark, and then he runs with momentum into the 6 yard area, and he, it's a walk-in. It's an easy header for him to make from that position. He had an opportunity like that earlier, couldn't take advantage of, and just like that, you can't give a guy like him, Gabriel, two opportunities to hit a header like that. Some people are arguing should that be should that be allowed or not? Oh, come on, man! Like, stop talking. Like, this is football. You could crowd the keeper. If anything, Ederson, and a lot of goals has happened so far in the past couple of weeks, where crosses being played in the 6 yard area. You had the Vicario against Arsenal. You had two actually from Mike Maignan going up against Liverpool. In these sort of situations, especially on this one, if I'm Ederson, the ball is not really bringing with, crossed with electric pace. Yes, you're getting crowded, but you kind of have that. You kind of have to have that, mentality. You're a goalkeeper. You need to have a command of your 6 yard area. You need to have that mentality. Okay, if I'm going through everyone to get the ball. If you're gonna come and get in my way, well, I'm gonna go through you, and you're gonna feel it. He has to have that sort of mentality, because that's what's, when you're getting crowded and the ball is being played in the 6 yard box, you need to have that mentality. I'm going to get to that ball no matter what. And if I have to go through an Arsenal player, so be it. If I have to go through my own player, so be it. But a ball is not coming in my 6 yard box and I'm not getting on the end of it. I get to use my hands. They don't. They don't get to use their hands. So for me, I thought Ederson, and I'm not saying it was a goalkeeper mistake or anything, but, for me, I really think that he should have that mentality. I'm getting that ball no matter what, and no matter who I have to go through. So that goal happened to make a 2-1 Arsenal. Then the big moment in the game that everyone's talking about, huge moment, came in around the 51st or 2nd minute or so. This is in first half stoppage time, so 45 plus about 7 or 8 minutes or something of that nature. Trossard gets sent off. Initially watching it, I thought it was for the initial sort of shoulder lean that he makes on a 50-50 ball with Bernardo Silva. But then, later on in the second half, when I was going through social media, I realized that he was actually sent off for the kicking of the ball away after the whistle, which yes, it was after the whistle. There's no clear. That's very very clear. It was after the whistle, um, that the yellow that he made that kick, and yeah, he got the second yellow, and I have to say, look. Yes, is it's harsh, and for Arsenal to get done by two of these in the last few games or so with the Declan Rice incident, now this is very unlucky. But in both situations, Declan Rice and Leandro Trossard gave the referee an opportunity to give that second yellow, and that's something Mikel Arteta has to address with this Arsenal team. The discipline has to be better. They can't continue to give the referee an opportunity to make that play. It's a really, really stupid thing to do when you're on a second. Number one, forget the kicking of the ball after the whistle, which is a yellow card. There's no arguing that by the rules of the game, that is a yellow card. But on top of that, there was the initial foul that he committed on Bernardo Silva, going for that 50-50 ball where he's leaning in with the shoulder into the back of Bernardo Silva. Why even make an attempt on the ball like that when you know you're on a second yellow? The way you play when you're on a yellow card versus when you're not on a yellow card should be very, very different. And I understand you're playing against City and you want to take advantage of every opportunity that comes. And if there's a chance you can win the ball in a dangerous area, you want to win it. But that's just, you have to be better. You have to be more disciplined. You have to change the way you play when you're on a yellow. You have to change the way you play. And you could see from that red card, the desperation on the Arsenal players pleading. You saw Saliba, you saw Saka, you saw Jurriën Timber, the desperation on their face, especially with Timber and Saliba, because they know how difficult it is playing with 10 men. They faced it against Brighton, and they know with the second yellow and a red card, there's no chance for VAR to intervene. They find it, and then you saw Mikel Arteta putting his jacket in his face, the frustration he had as well. But again, and yes, it's very, very harsh and very, very unlucky that Arsenal have gone on the wrong end of these sort of decisions now within a few weeks. And in those two red cards have probably cost Arsenal, 4 points so far in their campaign, with the red card against Brighton that cost them 3 points, and then this one. But that's football. That's football. And then we know from the moment that they got down to 10 men, that second half was gonna be very defensive football for Arsenal, playing away at the Etihad, playing with 10 men. We knew they were gonna get 11 men in the box and defend for their lives, and they defended incredibly. How many times did Ruben Dias and Mateo Kovacic have the ball at the edge or Kyle Walker have the ball at the edge of the box and just try to shoot a prayer, because they had no opportunity to play in between the lines against this Arsenal team. They were very, very good defensively, very, very compact. They made they made last-ditch tackles that were needed. They didn't give up many clear-cut opportunities. There was not space to play in. There was no space to play in behind. Really, overall, they defended really, really well. Raya made some very good saves as well. And City were pretty poor too. No overlapping, no real, didn't move the ball enough from one end from one side of the pitch to the other. Didn't make little runs that potentially could attract defenders into certain spaces that you can find pockets to take advantage of. There was none of that. There was none of that. The Man City, they looked poor. They do really look poor, and they never looked like they were able to break them down. And eventually the moment came on a quick corner kick, ball played in, and very at the last minute, and it's extremely, extremely heartbreaking for Arsenal fans to drop points in that manner. But eventually it came, but this was a City team that looked very, very devoid of chance creation, and it wasn't good enough. It was a lot of praying, shooting the ball and praying. For a team playing against 10 men, They had 28 shots and all that, and they dominated that second half, but again, not enough clear cut opportunities, and eventually the moment came. On the short corner kick being played in, Jack Grealish playing the ball into Kovacic, good save by Raya, and then Stones with the follow up, and yeah, it's and then Haaland throwing the ball at Gabriel afterwards, and all the things that ensued after the kickoff. I love that part of the game in terms of the rivalry and all that. The Haaland throwing the ball at Gabriel, that's pretty weak. That's pretty weak. He has his back turned to you. Not only did Haaland throw the ball at Gabriel's head, but he went on to run away. If you're gonna do something like that, at least stay there for the moment. So you could be a man. Don't just commit, and don't just do something like that from with someone back turned and then just run away. For me that was a little weak. But obviously disappointing blow from Arsenal. I think with the fact that they are down to 10 men and they were coming in without Odegaard, their most creative player, probably their only creative player. They would have taken a point at the start, but with the way that they conceded that second goal, obviously it's going to be really, really heartbreaking. But look, Arsenal may have lost the battle, and I know this is a really crazy thing to say given the circumstances of what happened, but the war, they might have lost. They didn't lose the battle, actually. They drew the battle, but they might have lost 2 points. But the biggest thing that could have came out of this game for Arsenal is that Rodri ACL injury, which we'll discuss later on. Because look, obviously it's we don't wish upon injury on anyone, and definitely I don't. I'm not an Arsenal fan or anything, and it's sad to see someone go down with torn ACL. It's really devastating, not just for him, but for Manchester City. But that could be something that could give Arsenal real hope going forward. So we'll see. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to Barcelona's win over Villarreal and Marc-Andre ter Stegen's injury.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we reacted to City and Arsenal's draw. We move on to react to Barcelona's win over Villarreal and Marc-Andre ter Stegen's injury. Let's pull up the statistics real quick. Barcelona win yet again. They're able to get past Villarreal 5-1. And as they continue their perfect start to La Liga now, 6 wins, no dropped points, 18 points in 6 games, 6 wins, no defeat, and in doing it in so far in dominant fashion. You look at their goal differential, 17 goal differential, 7 plus 17 goal differential, 6 games in, 22 goals. scored, which is 9 more than any other team has scored so far in the in La Liga, and then conceding only 5 goals, which has them, tied for the second best defense in La Liga. They're also tied with Getafe, who finds themselves 18th in La Liga. That's, has a lot to do with the fact that they've only scored 3 goals themselves, Getafe. But yeah, Barcelona, they've been dominant. And, Hansi Flick has this team playing with a new swag, a new personality to them. They go into every game thinking, they are the favorites. And they play with a sense of spirit and a sense of going forward that's really refreshing. That I thought Barcelona had some good signs under Xavi. Don't get me wrong, but we haven't seen this level of dominance from this Barcelona team. There was good signs and some positivity, especially when you regards to the previous managers, the Ronald Koemans, the Kete Setiens. We saw some optimism from the Xavi Barcelona's team. But this is, they're taking it to the next level right now, and they're doing good. And they're doing this, they just suffered another bad injury with Ter Stegen, but this is a team that's been injury riddled as well. You'll see the Barcelona team that played today. You look at that starting 11, you got some top players like Lewandowski and Lamine Yamal. But you have, players like Sergi Dominguez, 19-year-old center half that came up from La Masia. You have Inigo Martinez, an Inigo Martinez that, is 33, and this is the first time him playing at this sort of level for Barcelona. With this being his second season, you have Gerard Martin, another La Masia, graduate playing left back. You have Pablo Torre, another La Masia graduate replacing Dani Olmo, who's going to be out for a little bit. Eric Garcia playing as a 6, a holding midfielder. He has, he's a center half. He came up, as a center half. He's having to mix and match and rely on youth. Hansi Flick and rely on La Masia, and he's been doing that so far in La Liga absolutely brilliantly. He didn't have a holding midfielder entering this campaign. He lost the guy in Marc Bernal that they thought could be potentially the answer there, and he's having to mix and match and rely on youth, and they're still playing some really, really good football. They're scoring goals at ease. They're doing it against good teams as well. When you see the fact that they've put up 5 past Villarreal, they put 4 against Girona. They've been really, really good, and they've been very, very impressive. As Rafinha, Lewandowski scored twice, who's playing a much better football than he played last season, and Rafinha, who never got on to so far on a consistent nature when he was under Xavi, now playing. Playing not in an unnatural position, but not his favorite position because it's locked up by Lamine Yamal, but finding himself to be, dangerous coming from the left-hand side, being a little bit more to his direct nature, playing with his left foot, being very direct and taking on a shot, going forward or coming centrally as well and being, danger in there as well. They still have a 4-point lead over Real Madrid. They handed Villarreal their first La Liga loss of the season. They've been great. And again, this is a Barcelona team that doesn't have Dani Olmo, that doesn't have Xavi, that doesn't have Frenkie de Jong, that lost Marc Bernal, the answer to the holding midfielder. As we thought early on the season, they lost him, Fermin Lopez as well, who, suffered an injury playing with the U21s, Ronald Araujo, Andreas Christensen, and Villarreal, they were not horrible. They lost 5-1, and they created a few opportunities. They were pretty dangerous on counter-attack, and they actually had 3 goals disallowed this game for tight offsides decisions that were rightly they were rightly called off with VAR, but you know, they provided a competition for Villarreal, for Barcelona. But the way Barcelona were, just more risk taking, playing that forward ball, being more clinical, being more direct now with Hansi Flick, it's allowing them to, even though they don't, even though they're not, dominating games in terms of 99% possession, like the tiki-taka way, but the way how fast they are and how electric they are and how direct they are, they're being able to score 5, 4, 7 goals, despite not having 99% possession. And not saying they can't control the games. They're still controlling the games under Hansi Flick, but they're not playing this tiki-taka way. It's different. It's very different. And they've been great. They've been really, really good. And I don't see them slowing down. And I do think the injuries will take a toll, especially when you're going up against these better teams and you don't have a natural holding midfielder and you're relying on these youth, like going away in Europe or going away to the Bernabeu or the Calderon and taking on Madrid. Eventually, the youth and not having that holding midfielder, it's something that Hansi Flick and this Barcelona team will, struggle with. But right now they've looked very, very excellent, and it's very good signs. It's very good signs how Hansi Flick has been able to, I don't know what this Barcelona team could do this year with the injuries that they face, combination Ter Stegen potentially being out with for the season. But I'll say you get these players back, and you get these players back. You get another year of Lamine Yamal to develop, who is looking like one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world. Next year, they could be a very, very dangerous team. And I'm not writing off this year. There's 18 points in 6 games. They're perfect in La Liga so far. They'll compete for La Liga this season. They have a good chance to win it based on how they're playing right now as well. But I'm saying the future is bright for Barcelona, and Hansi Flick, not saying he was disrespected in his Germany time, but I think people forgot what he did at Bayern. He's reminding us, he's a great tactician. He has a great style of play, an efficient style of play, and he has his team to be very forward going, very attacking, very forward thinking, but he can also has the team defending really, really well, even with the makeshift, youth players being in there and players playing unnatural positions like Eric Garcia. He's making this puzzle work, and I love to see how much longer he can make this work, because I do think eventually, going up against the better teams, I do think that holding midfielder role will, and Frenkie de Jong coming back, he can fill that void. But again, that's not his best position, and that's not what he does best. So I'm looking forward to see that. Show break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to Rodri likely missing the rest of the season due to ACL surgery.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we reacted to Barcelona's win over Villarreal and Marc-Andre Ter Stegen's injury. We move on to react to Rodri. He's gonna miss the rest of the season due to ACL injury. Obviously, massive blow for Manchester City. This is a Rodri player that's in the Ballon d'Or discussion, and rightfully so. How important he's been for Manchester City. You saw the statistics from last season in terms of their win-loss ratio with him on the pitch and not on the pitch, and then him being that important catalyst for Spain, his first major international tournament where he is that number 6 for Spain, that he can be the conductor and the composer of the midfielder and the one that dictates tempo and holds it down in the midfield. His first opportunity to really play that role, in tournaments in the past, there's been Busquets, and he's had to play a makeshift role in the midfield or even play center half at times to, still be involved with Sergio Busquets still being in there. Now he's playing, his natural roles for Spain, and then they're immediately profiting with winning European championships and doing it in a super fashion as well. This is a guy that's going to be in the Ballon d'Or, race for this season, and rightfully so. And despite him not playing an exciting position, a position that is exciting and very appealing to watch, and it's not a position that people watch football games and say, I want to watch Rodri play. He's not that kind of player, but the importance of him is far beyond most other players in the world, if not 99% of all the players in the world. He's just that he's just that important. He's just that great, and he makes the City team what they are. I do think last season statistics is it's something. Look, I think City eventually is something they're just gonna have to deal with, and they'll recover. This is there's no excuses when it comes to Manchester City team. This is a team with extreme quality and extreme bench, and if anyone is supposed to recover from losing an important player, is Manchester City. They have the squad to do it. Now the weird thing about Manchester City is, they don't naturally have a player that plays in the Rodri role. If you're looking at, so far the start of the season, before that Inter Milan game, the Rodri didn't feature, and it's been Kovacic and Gundogan playing that role in midfield, with De Bruyne playing above them. Which, Kovacic is not a natural, player in that position that Rodri plays, but him and Gundogan, they, together do the role of De Bruyne. Not of De Bruyne, of Rodri. So last season, you talk about the record that City had last season without Rodri, but they also didn't have Gundogan. So look, I don't think this is a loss, yes, and this is something that could potentially open it up for Arsenal, as I was hinting at as the previous segment. But again, Manchester City, Pep Guardiola, if there's any team that should overcome this, it should be them. They should overcome this, and it's something I think that they will figure out. And whether it's not, maybe they need to bring in someone in January that someone that naturally plays that role of can be a own holding midfielder. If that's necessary, maybe that's might be the answer. But I don't think this is something that's I don't think this is something that should derail City's title hopes or anything. Keep in mind, by the way, this is a Manchester City team that didn't have Rodri in their first. This is the first Premier League game that he started for Manchester City. The opening 4 games, they won 4 games. They lost none. They did it in dominant fashion. They didn't have Rodri play in any of those games. I believe in the Brentford game, he came on as a substitute, but apart from that, he didn't feature. So, so far this season, they have been used to playing without Rodri, because they've wanted, Pep Guardiola wanted to give Rodri that rest, having that deep run into the European Championship, and we know Rodri needs his rest. He came out publicly at the end of last season, not the end, but near the end of last season, saying he needs a rest, which was not something you're used to hearing players admit publicly. And on top of that, also you have the comments that he's been making very recently with the players playing too many games as well. So the rest was needed for him, and he was able to get that. And yeah, then this injury comes, and it's always those injuries are always the trickiest. Whenever there's no contact made by the other team, it's a non-contact injury. Those injuries always seem to be the worst. I see them all the time, and especially in American football, where you see the non-contact injuries. Those are the injuries that are usually seem to be the worst. And it was just that initially with the Rodri injury, initially when I was watching the game and I saw the injury take place, I saw, this could be bad, because of the fact that it was non-contact and his initial reaction. He really looked in pain. He was able to walk off, which I didn't make too much of it. I still thought it could have been torn ACL. But as the game went on, you saw Rodri. He was part of the not part of the celebration, but you saw him on the bench as the camera cut to him. And also, after the game, you didn't hear those immediate reports. And yes, that what happened was City. That goal last minute. That's obviously gonna take over the internet and take over the media and all that, and the questions being asked to Guardiola and all that. But usually when these sort of injuries happen, Guardiola, or the manager, whoever the manager is, with Ter Stegen, when with Hansi Flick and the Ter Stegen situation happens, the manager would come out and say, it's not looking good. It's a very bad injury, something of that sort. I didn't hear that from Pep Guardiola, so it made me gain a little bit of hope that this wasn't that sort of injury for Rodri. Then I woke up the next morning and I see the reports. Devastating blow for Manchester City. Show break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to AC Milan's derby win over Inter.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we reacted to Rodri likely missing the rest of the season due to ACL injury. We move on to react to AC Milan. They got a derby win over Inter this Sunday. They were able to win 2-1. You had goals from Pulisic and Matteo Gabbi, for the winning goal in the 89th minute. DiMarco was able to equalize 27th minute. Very, very exciting game. This is two teams that are, Inter Milan, they're coming off an okay start to the season, not that mediocre start to their season by their standards that they've created over the past few seasons. Having 90 plus points in Serie A last season, winning Serie A 2 of the last 3 times, and then they had that in their last game, pretty bad, pretty disappointing game against Monza, where it took a late equalizer from Dumfries to even get a point. And then you had AC Milan that, started off the season poor, very, very poorly, only having one win in their first 4 games. But having their win that they got in the Serie A most recently with a thumping 4-0 win over I believe it was Venezia. So it's interesting, and then it was interesting. This is a Milan derby, so every form does go out of the window, and it was such a great game. You had that early moment of magic. Christian Pulisic, the Captain America, what a goal by him in that situation. And this guy, he's just breaking the fold for an American player. He's just doing things that's just crazy. That goal in this stage in the Milan derby. He also scored a goal against Liverpool. This is a Christian Pulisic that is now up there in terms of Serie A top scorers up to this point. I believe. I think he's third. It was 3 goals so far. He's been so good, and he's looking like the Christian Pulisic that we saw during lockdown. That lockdown Pulisic, which people people forget about, but he was incredible during lockdown. An amazing player, and very important to Chelsea getting into that top 4 that following year, which was very important because that allowed getting them into the top 4 allowed them to make those summer moves that led them to winning the Champions League. So Pulisic, he was what a goal to drive past those players, and then he played a really good first half as well. Just in general, played really well. He got that goal. But Milan has been struggling, and once once Di Marco got that goal in the 27th minute to equalize, you just thought, okay, now Inter Milan, they got back into the game. They'll take this game over. They'll get out of here with the 3 points, and they'll do it in comfortable fashion. But it was Milan that ended up getting the winner. Despite the recent, crisis that they've gone with only having 1 win in 5 games to start off their season, it was Milan. And AC Milan, by the way, in that second half, they created some opportunities in there. Rafael Leao had an opportunity in transition with the ball played by Tammy Abraham. Then Tammy Abraham had a really good opportunity himself. They created some opportunities in that second half to get that winning goal. And eventually it came for them on the set piece opportunity through Gabbia, who got the goal in the 89th minute. But AC Milan, they had their opportunities in that second half as well. They were willing to go at Inter Milan, and Inter Milan defensively not as stable as I expected an Inter Milan team to look. I thought going forward wise as well, didn't create enough clear-cut opportunities. A little bit like that energy levels. I didn't think they matched that energy levels and the intensity that AC Milan brought into the game. You look at that Christian Pulisic goal, how was he able to muscle his way through, and you saw how Inter Milan, I thought a lot of second balls, they were first 2. I thought they were the ones that AC Milan were willing more to go out and take advantage of spaces in transition and get people forward. So I do think Inter Milan did not match the intensity that AC Milan brought to this game. And so far, with 5 games, only having 2 wins and then 2 losses and a draw, it's been a bad start for Inter Milan team that's really raised the standard in terms of what we expect from them in Serie A, just based on how great they've been in the past few seasons or so. So, Milan, Inter Milan, they have some things that they need to address. There's no arguing that Simeone Inzaghi has his work cut out for him. For AC Milan, a great win for AC Milan, great win for Paulo Fonseca. His biggest win since he's became the manager for AC Milan, and they needed this after the start of the campaign, because it's been a very difficult moment for them. And to get a win over your rival in Milan, this is a sort of a game, for AC Milan that can really spark something going forward, that can light up something for AC Milan going. I keep mixing them up. For AC Milan going forward, and this could be the turnaround moment for them, and not just because of the result, which is, yes, that's the most important thing, but also the performance. The performance that can give them belief going forward. We went up against Inter Milan toe-to-toe, and we were better than them. In that second half, we created the opportunities. We could have, we had multiple opportunities to get that second goal. And, it was us not being clinical that we needed the reliance on a set piece, or we should have had that second goal beforehand. That performance, that belief that you can get from going up against Inter Milan, going up toe-to-toe with them and getting the win in this derby game, in this high pressurized moment, that's something that could be a catalyst for them going forward as well. Not just in not just in Serie A, obviously, but in the Champions League that they're also competing in as well. And yeah, as far as Inter Milan, defensively they need to get back to playing, their sort of style. They didn't look like the Inter Milan team that we see. The amount of space they gave up in transition and counter attacks, not looking as defensively solid, and not enough opportunities created as well for Inter Milan in this game. But it's something I'm not gonna be too critical on Inter Milan, and I'm not going to be too overreacted to this performance. We know what Inter Milan are capable of. We've seen the consistency that they've had the past few seasons. Even when they went into Manchester City at the Etihad, how they were able to get that a point, and they did do that playing some good football as well. For me, don't count out Inter Milan. I'm not counting them out going forward. But again, big result for AC Milan, and very unexpected result when you've seen what what's happened so far to the season. So good win for AC Milan. This could be a catalyst for them going forward to have to get their season going. As far as Inter Milan, get back to the basics, defend really well, don't give up the spaces that you're given in transition, and need to be just a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more electric in the attack as well. They're not creating enough opportunities, which I can't really, I have to say, I can't really point out a reason why or why not. And it's not really my job to figure out. My job is to analyze the performances and bring it to y'all. That's Inzaghi. So yeah, I'll remain, that's going to be interesting to see how they figure it out for them. But surprising, shocking result there. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to some of the top soccer headlines. Before the break, we discussed AC Milan's derby win over Inter. We move on to react to some of the top soccer headlines going on in the soccer world. And we have to start off with Pochettino. He will be coaching his first competitive game for the U.S. men's national team in St. Louis as they play in the Nations League quarterfinal home leg at City Park. It's going to be Pochettino's first home game in an official competition. We know his first matches are against Panama on October 12th in Austin, Texas. Then 3 days later, they play against Mexico in Guadalajara. But this game will be his first competitive game with the U.S. men's national team, and it'll be at home against St. Louis. It will be the first game of the two-leg series. The opponent has not been determined yet. It'll be determined by what happens in the group stages in October. This is the U.S. men's national team, by the way. That's they've won every single edition of the Nations League to this point in 2021, 2023, 2024. So yeah. Euro 2024, let's go back to that review, says Germany deserved the penalty against Spain. A report on the Euro 2024 issued by the UEFA's referee committee says that Germany should have been awarded the penalty for the handball by Marco Correa in that quarterfinal to Spain. It was UEFA, I don't understand why come out with this months later. I guess they want the temperature to cool down. But look, I don't think we need this to understand. That's a penalty. Cucurella's hand it doesn't have to be stretched to this extent for it to be a handball. Cucurella's stretched hand was, it made his body bigger. It struck his hand. It's not a red card, maybe not even a yellow. It's nothing to that sort, but it's a penalty. It's a handball. That's a ball. That's a play that happens at midfield is getting whistled for a handball. In this situation, in the pressure, in that situation, the referee didn't want to give the decision, and then VAR on top of that did not want to help him. And it's unfortunate for Germany, in which my opinion in the tournament that Germany were the second best team in the tournament, and they just got unlucky because they played the best team in the tournament in the quarterfinal. But they're a very, very good team. Germany is, and they just got very, very unlucky. They found themselves in that position to play that game then. But yeah, and now Euro 2024 review finds it, but that doesn't help Germany now. These reviews that happen afterwards, they do it all the time as well in the NBA and the NFL. I don't really understand what's the point. You can't go back and, give them anything. Haaland avoided sanction for the ball throw. He will not face any punishment for throwing the ball at Magalhaes after the equalizing goal from City against Arsenal. Cameras caught that Haaland threw the ball at the back of Gabriel after that John Stones goal to make it 2-2, and the referee missed it. VAR intervened, but they didn't want to consider it violent conduct, which, yeah, I think giving that violent conduct would have been just a little bit too far. But I do have to say, let's say Erling Haaland, makes that throw at Gabriel, and let's say Gabriel is, decides to, let's say he really, is bothered by it, and he sees a Haaland run away. He figures out it's Haaland, and he goes and chases after him, and he makes a big deal out of it. I think in that situation, once VAR goes back and look at it, because of the confrontation that would happen because of it, I think it could have been a different situation there, because you can't be throwing the ball at heads. I saw Jules Koundé a few years ago. He threw the ball at the head of Jordi Alba, but it came in a little bit different circumstances. I believe he was frustrating with the tackle we made or something, and he threw it, on frustration, full force, point blank. And then obviously the theatrics from Jordi Alba falling on the ground. He got a straight red card. But for me, throwing the ball at the head of anyone, that could be seen as violent conduct. But look, obviously, I don't think it should have been a red card, and probably it should have been a yellow, and cooler head should have prevailed and all that. But from Haaland's perspective, I still think it's very soft and weak and cowardly, as Ian Wright said. He has his back turned. And then you just, it's not only the fact that he has his back turned. Okay, if you want to do something on someone who has his back turned, I don't agree with it. I think it's cowardly, but okay. But what's even more weak, in my opinion, is how, and yes, they just scored a goal and he's going to celebrate and all that. But if you're going to do something like that, don't just go run off. And, if you're gonna go and if you're gonna do something like that, you better stay there, and whatever, however he comes back, you handle it like a man. Don't just run away. Don't do something when someone's back is turned and then just go run. I think that made it, the throwing the ball when someone has their back turned in general is lame and weak from the beginning. But the fact that he went on to run immediately afterwards, run away from what he did. He's not running away from what he did, but running away from Gabriel in that situation, for me, it's soft and it's crazy. Not crazy, but weird. Fenerbahce coach Jose Mourinho has been labeled as the crying one by the Galatasaray fans after they lost 3-1 in the Istanbul derby. After Fenerbahce lost 3-1, and this was Fenerbahce's first Super League defeat of the season, and now they're already behind Galatasaray by 5 points. Mourinho, we know him. He described himself as the special one a lot, way back then during his, before his first spell at Chelsea, and then Galatasaray, they posted on their official Twitter account a photoshopped image of a book titled "The Crying One," and you see that from fans, and you see that from them. That's football, and yeah, that was something else that happened. But thank you guys for tuning in to the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. So thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Mm-hmm.